What is behavior? Somebody give me an idea or suggestion of what behavior is. Anyone, there's no wrong or right answer. So.
The response to stimuli.
A response to stimuli. Very good. That's how we react or respond to something in there. Good. Anyone else? Oh, yeah. Well, like me at the end of the day. Usually y'all got the best of me this morning. Sorry. All right. What about how do kids pick up behaviors? Is it innate? Boom, we're born with the behaviors that we have. Behavior is learned, right? So, would you agree? If they mimic what they see, they learn from what they see, they learn from their environment. So, if they learn bad behaviors, do you believe that they can learn good behaviors?
Absolutely.
Right. So, it's our job to teach them those good behaviors. What's some other things about behavior that we know or think we know? So, it's reactive. Behaviors are learned. I'm hungry. My stomach grumbles. And where was I going with that? Wait. Oh yeah, I remember that. And I say to my boy that's in the kitchen getting a bag of popcorn, hey, bring me a sandwich. Oh yeah. He don't, and I get angry, and I slap the table, and I said, bring me a sandwich. What am I trying to do with my behavior?
We're trying to get a need met.
Trying to get a need met, right? So, and I'm also communicating. Behavior is a form of communication. Sometimes we have kiddos that are nonverbal, and they act out to communicate with you. How many, I've worked with some small kids, worked with bigger kids as well, but some of the smaller kids don't have the vocabulary, they don't have the language, they don't have the ability to tell you what's going on with them, so they use their behaviors, acting out, inappropriate or appropriate, to communicate to you that they have a need that is being unmet, or they want something, they need attention, they need to tell you something, there's some way trying to communicate things with you. All right, let's see what we got. So we said behavior is learned, okay, and it's an action, it's observable and measurable. Now, our thoughts, is a thought a behavior?
No, you get stuck with thoughts and then they affect the way you interact. It starts there.
It starts there, but if behavior is an action, your thoughts in your head, you're not
But it,
in that
it's
action.
taking an action.
So,
I guess it depends on your perspective.
can I observe you think?
No.
Can I measure how many times you think? If you think out loud, but then you're using the action of speaking
Okay, I see.
to express or show that behavior,
Yeah.
so that emotion, that thought. So yes. All right, congratulations, you win. All right, we'll go. So, but no, behavior is not what the student's feeling, but what the student's showing. It is an action. So if I say, I'm angry, is that a behavior? No, that's a feeling, that's an emotion. If I come in and I kick this chair, that's a behavior. And you say, well, they're angry, they're upset, they're mad. If I say a word that I get yelled at, first over that, that's a behavior. But inappropriate language, that. So I'm thinking about, what this paper up and get you with it. That's what nice. If I think that, you can't see what that is, but if I do it, then you can see, they threw a paper away. So, All right, so behavior serves two purposes. What two purposes do we use our behavior for? Oh, wait, what? To get something right. That's one thing. Or avoid something. You either get something out of the behaviors that you're using or exhibiting, or you're avoiding something. I get up, come to work every morning to get that paycheck, and to avoid having to sit at the house and do all the housework. Just to be honest with you. So I try to do my job and behave and say stuff PG to avoid being called to HR for inappropriate language, which is hard to do sometimes. So I'm just saying. So we use behavior to get something or to avoid something. Now, sometimes we use behaviors as well for stimulus to have that sensory need met. Some of our kiddos like I had a kid that loved blue jeans. The material, the feel of Levi's, dress pants he didn't like so much, but blue jeans. He loved that material. And man, he would run up to you if you had blue jeans on or Levi's or whatever you want to call them. He'd pinch the hunk out of you because he just loved that material, you know. And if you got a hunk of fat on there, that was just an added bonus for him. So that he just got a sensory overload there, you know. So he's like, oh man, he's killing me. I can't wear Levi's. So we figured it out. Finally, we took a pair of old Levi's I had, cut the pockets, the back pockets off of them, put some hair gel in a Ziploc bag in, taped it all up, fixed it. So one week out, glue those pockets together. Then he had that sensory, that fidget that he could hold in his hand and manipulate, and he met that need for that sensory stimulus that he was missing. And so, I mean, thank goodness, because I like wearing the blue jeans, and I hated going home with bruises. But anyways, that was a sensory need. Now, when you're getting something or avoiding something, our kiddos are trying to get something from peers, or they're trying to get something from adults, or avoiding something from peers and from adults. So I got a scenario I'm going to read a couple of them real quick and see what we think. All right, so this scenario, first thing, we're looking at social, and we're looking at tangible. So tangible is something that you actually physically get. Social is attention from or non-attention from your peers and your adults in your house. So whenever Mrs. Jackson walks away from Jonathan to attend to another student, Jonathan says to her, "You don't want me to learn, you don't care about me. I know you think I'm dumb." Mrs. Jackson responds by consoling Jonathan, saying, "That's not true, you're a very smart young man." She works with him the rest of the period. This happens more than once a week. So is it getting something or avoiding something? Getting something. Is it getting something socially or is it getting something tangible?
Socially.
Social. And who's he getting that social interaction from? The teacher, right. Good job. When Jessie wants a toy from her sister, she screams, "Give it to me now," repeatedly, until her sister gives her the toy, or her mom comes into the room and tells her sister, "Just give her the toy, you can play with it later." The sister gives her the toy. This is typical everyday occurrence. So, what is she getting something or avoiding something? Getting something. Is it tangible or is it social? Tangible. She actually got the toy. And one more, and then we move on. Michael mimics and mocks Mr. Alton during large group instruction. His peers smirk and laugh at his impressions. Mr. Alton tells him to stop, but instead Michael continues to mimic him, and the entire class laughs. Mr. Alton gives Michael a referral and sends him to the office. On the way out the door, Michael turns around and mocks Mr. Alton again. The entire class laughs. Michael takes a bow and continues toward the office. Teachers report that this behavior happens in more than one class. So what is Michael getting or reporting? Getting attention, and he's getting it from who? Social, from the class, right? And if it's during math class, you hand me a math packet, and I want to pick it up, throw it on the floor, and you send me out of the room. I'm avoiding math, and I'm getting into that. So right, good job. Awesome. So, right. Thank you. We done. All right. Okay, so next thing I want to look at real briefly are ABCs of behavior. And ABCs stand for antecedent, behavior, and consequence. And when we're looking at a behavior, when we're looking at an incident in a classroom, we always want to look at the behavior first. What is the behavior? What's going on with the kiddo? What actions are we seeing in the student? And once we identify that behavior, that is the action, we're going to look at the antecedent. And what do you think an antecedent is?
Cause.
It could be the cause. What else we got? What happens immediately before the behavior? The antecedent happens immediately before that behavior. What was the trigger? What set that behavior in motion? So behavior is the action, and the consequence would be what happens not to the student, but what happens after the behavior. You know, a lot of times we think about consequences that I sent them to the office, gave them time out, I made them wait, lose 5 minutes of recess. Not necessarily is that a consequence, that's more of a punishment. If she shouts out in class and I walk over next to her and say, "Hey, you need some help? How can I do that? How can I get you started?" You know, I give her that attention. The consequence of her shouting out was what? I gave her attention. The immediate response that we give our kiddos. And a lot of times we get hung up reinforcing negative behaviors because we attend to that behavior without realizing that consequence is what's reinforcing that behavior. So when you think about consequences, you think about how I respond to that behavior and how I respond to what's going on in that classroom. And I've done it several times. You know, one of my kids would be, like we said, be in the middle of a lesson, be in the middle of a talk, and one of the kids start acting up, and I stop and I go over there and I confront that student. What was the consequence of that student acting up or misbehaving? You got the attention. I reinforce that negative behavior by providing that attention. And that's where we talked a little bit earlier about playing ignore and trying to use proximity prompt, trying to use the names and things like that. Try not to reinforce those behaviors, accidentally reinforcing the wrong thing. So we're going to do a couple scenarios. So Mrs. Thompson puts an apple on the table. She asks Johnny, "What do you want?" Johnny says, "Apple." Ms. Thompson hands her the apple and says, "Good job." So what is antecedent? What happens right before Johnny says the word apple? Right. She placed the apple on the table. What did Johnny do? What is his behavior? Johnny says apple. Right. And then what was the consequence of Johnny saying apple? What happened after Johnny said apple? He got the apple and she provided verbal praise of good job. Now, that's I like the way that she did say good job, but when you're providing praise to your students, make sure it's behavior specific praise. You know, I'd say good job everyone today, you did it really well. I may have been sitting in the corner of the room with my feet propped up on my desk to sleep. Did I do a good job? Well, I didn't fall out on the floor. I didn't bother anyone, but what was the good job that I did? So when you're providing praise to your students, instead of saying, "Everyone did a great job today," provide them with that behavior-specific praise. Thank you, Ms. Dion. You've done a wonderful job today taking notes and staying in your seat. I really appreciate the way you paid attention and looked at the speaker. Very good job. Then you can add that in. But if I said, "Thank you, Ms. Dion, great job," and keep walking, she might be there. What did I do? You know, so again, make sure it's behavior specific. All right, so let's look at this scenario real quick. It says, Larry thinks to himself, "Oh, this will be funny." And he throws a spitball at Tony. Tony yells, "Hey!" Mr. Archer tells Tony, "Quiet over there." The bell rings and all the students leave. So what was the inappropriate behavior?
Throwing up spitballs.
Alright, so that was one of them. What was the one that forced the reaction? Hey, Tony yelling out. Tony didn't do anything. You know, he just said, "Hey." So what the behavior, what was the antecedent? What happened right before he yelled, "Hey"? Yeah, he got hit with a spitball. I probably yelled, "Hey," too. Pick something up and throw it back. Now what was the consequence? What happened immediately after he yelled, "Hey"?
Teacher said, "Quiet there."
Teacher told him to be quiet. Right, yes. I like the way he didn't say Larry thinks. Larry thought about it because that's a behavior, again, that we couldn't say. So remember, behavior is the action, antecedent, what happens immediately before, and the consequence is what happens after.
Tony shouldn't have got in trouble.
Right, he should. So, I agree with you. I won't yell at him. That's, yeah, it's time to go. Let's clean this mess up. Thanks. Appreciate it. Bye. Alright. So we're going to look at some common sources of behavior. We're going to look at where behaviors come from, 3 sources of behaviors, and we're going to talk about these briefly. One of the common sources of behavior is carrying. Those are things that kids bring with them into the classroom. They're things that you bring with you into the classroom, into the environment. Carry-in behaviors are those things that we have no control over at all. It comes from outside the school environment, outside of the bus, outside of the school, like I said, the school setting or school environment. And things they bring with you. So think about it, if you're going on a trip, going on whatever, you bring your luggage with you, you carry in those things that bother you. So carryover behaviors are things that we have control over. They're within their environment, they're within the school setting. But they're unresolved issues that are not handled appropriately, and they carry over from setting to setting to setting within the school environment. And then our final things that we look at, sources of behavior, are tune in. Things that make you aware of what's going on, things that may remind you of something that happened, and you tune into how that made you feel, and you respond accordingly to that. Tune in our I guess, PT, what is it? Post-traumatic stress incidents, things like that, traumatic experiences that you've been through, and a couple of stories after we talk about some of these, and I'll get a couple of stories with the tune-in behaviors. But so if we look at, so a couple of these tune-in things that we're going to talk about, a couple of these behaviors, I'm going to give you an example, and you tell me if it is a carry-in. Thumbs up is carry-in. Thumbs down is carry-over. And thumbs sideways is tune-in. All right? Have we got our thumbs up, thumbs down? Right. Yeah. Okay. So the first one, someone puts a post on Facebook about me. Would that cause carry-in behaviors, carry-over behaviors, or tune-in behaviors? So we got some thumbs up, right? Carry in. They bring that stuff with them to the school setting. All right. So we have the sound of a bell. The sound of a bell. Would that be carry in? Would that be carry over? Or could that be a tune-in behavior? Kind of mixed on that. I would consider that a tune-in behavior. Because I was at a school and the bell was really weird. I mean, it was just, it was more of an alarm and stuff. It was not a bell. And I said, man, that's weird. And I said, that's strange. And this one kid said, yes, that sounds like the alarm they give you before they close the doors in the detention center. And I said, golly, and every time he hears that bell, he's going to be thinking about the detention center that he was in. So he tuned into what happened to him at that point. Another example of a tune-in, something that causes tune-in behavior could be a perfume or a cologne that you wear, or peanut butter, a certain smell, a certain sound. I had a young lady worked with her. We had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with chili at lunch on Fridays. I love her. And every time she smelled the peanut butter sandwiches, she ran off. I mean, she tore the place apart. She just did everything she could to get out of the cafeteria. And we got to digging and looking and figuring out she'd been sexually abused by someone after they got through eating a peanut butter sandwich. And that smell of peanut butter reminded her of that event. So, that was one of those tune-in things that caused her to remember that. And, so we fixed that by no longer having peanut butter. I missed the sandwiches, but it made a lot of sense. What about argument on the bus? Would it be something that's carried in, something that's carried over, or something that's tuned in? We got to It's on the bus. It's within our control.
But they could be coming into the classroom in the morning or.
It was on the bus. We got an argument. You goes back in the seat. I'm sitting up front. And is it resolved? It's in our environment. So remember, the carryover ones are right. It is carryover. The things that happen within our environment that are unresolved. And a lot of times that happens, The bus driver, I sent one in the front, one in the back, and took care of that. Then they meet up in the lunchroom for breakfast or whatever, and they get in each other's face. You go there and sit, you go to your room. We separated them. I took care of that problem. Did we? No, we didn't resolve it. Because when they meet up in the hallway 2 hours later and they ball up and roll around on the floor and you don't know what's going on, that was unresolved issues within our environment that we didn't take care of. All right, and let's try one more. A chronic illness. Yeah, I would think that would be carried in. We don't have any control over that. We can provide them with the help that they need at school. And then, our police officer was at the residence last night. How would be carried in? We don't have control over that, but we do have control over how we treat that kid the next day at school. And so, and then one more is the trauma reminders. You know, we experienced the flooding. Folks in Dauphin County experienced the tornado. You know, we've all had those experiences that positive and negative that remind us of things. There's certain dates. You know, there's 2 days that, you know, for me that are kind of rough to deal with. And I know what those days are and everything, and know what was happening, what I did, blah, 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 stuff like that. So those trauma reminders. Now, you can also have good tune-in reminders, like, you know, every time I hear a couple of songs on the radio, I remember who I was with, and but I remember that time. Yeah, all right, we're going on. All right. Before, yeah. Then there's some songs I can't listen to anymore, a band I can't listen to because, so anyway. So what are some factors that influence the kiddos that we work with? Some of those factors are diagnosis and educational eligibility. You know, I worked with some kiddos that had ADHD or ADD. Yeah, you're gonna sit there for an hour and a half, don't get up, don't talk to anybody, don't move. That's not gonna happen, right? So we know from our diagnosis that some of the kids have to get up and have to move. We have to get up and move. I have to move. And, you know, I know I sit back there early and I can't sit here any longer. I have to get up, move in and out, and all that stuff. Also, with the diagnosis and eligibilities, we also know that some of our kids, if they have learning disabilities, they're going to struggle with math, they're going to struggle with reading, they're going to struggle with writing. So, you know, I'm not saying have low expectations for them, but have realistic expectations for those kiddos and meet them where they're at and then bring them forward. We don't want to teach them way above their head or so far below that it's maybe work for them, but meet them where they're at and then bring them forward. Just be aware of their eligibilities. Medications, illnesses, allergies. Man, I had a couple of my kiddos, allergies, nonverbal. They couldn't tell me what was bothering me, but every spring, golly, you talking about a rough time. And it was because of the allergies. They were the things that they were allergic to. And, you know, we caught the brunt of it. Had kiddos, some medication they were on. This one kid, the medication he was on, he had to drink water, a lot of water. So if you drink a lot of water, you have to do restroom breaks quite often, you know. And so I was like, well, he's out of the room every 10 minutes, going to get a drink of water and go in the bathroom. Well, if you was on this medication and you were aware of that, you would be doing the same thing. So, you know, just be aware of some of the medications. Be aware of some of the illnesses. Yeah, I had a couple of kids that had we weren't aware of it, but they had some heart conditions. And man, they was playing sports and everything. We was out playing and you know, having a good old time. And then the principal came to me and said, you do know they have a heart condition. I was like, no. If I knew that, we wouldn't be doing this strenuous work. Just be aware of the illnesses and conditions that your kiddos have. Does anyone carry an EpiPen or allergic to bee stings and things like that? You know, some of our kids at school, you know, our nurses, of course, have the EpiPens and things like that. So just be aware of these things, allergies. A lot of schools don't have peanuts or things like that because of peanut allergies. So just be aware of these things. Cognitive abilities. When we're looking at cognitive abilities, we're not just looking at how our students perform academically. Look at how they think about things. Do they have the cognitive ability to understand what you're telling them? Do they understand the language that you're using? I had a kid tell me I used teacher talk. He couldn't understand a word I said. I was trying to explain something on a math problem to him. And I had a peer tell him the same exact thing I said. He said, I understood that, but I can't understand no teacher talk. So I wasn't looking at the cognitive abilities of that kiddo. I was just looking at the way that I was teaching and the way everyone else understood. So are they capable of understanding what you're asking them to do, and do they have that ability to do that as well? Emotional capabilities. How many high school teachers we got? All right, so. Both, whatever. How many of our little fellows have more emotional abilities and more of an adult than the parents are? You know, think about it. You know, so look at the emotional capabilities of our kiddos. I've had kids that, in 8th grade, and make sure they got up early enough that they could get themselves ready, get their little brother ready, and get on the bus, get them dressed and get on the bus, and make sure everything that they got's with them so that they'll have a good day. And then make sure that they get home or to at home safely that evening. Because the parents weren't, I mean, they were in the picture, but they weren't in the picture, if you know what I'm saying. You know, and some of our high school kids take on more of a parental role, caregiver role than what their parents do. You know, and just be aware of those emotional capabilities. And then also, you still got some of these kiddos that cry at the drop of a hat. Oh, Lord, believe it's me, everything's against them. So, you know, those are the little fellas you gotta kind of take care of and protect. Oh, it'll be all right, honey. I'll help you get through this. Communication skills, we talked briefly about that. Some of our kiddos may not have verbal, be able to communicate verbally. So you look at using picture exchange systems, you look at maybe teaching sign language. Look at some way that you can work with communicating with those kiddos. And then talking to them at an age-appropriate language and age-appropriate vocabulary that you use with those students. Social skills. Some of our kids come to us without any social skills. Like I said a little bit earlier, they don't know how to enter a conversation. They don't know how to say thank you or please, or they don't know, you know, what's appropriate or inappropriate behavior for school. And a lot of them cannot generalize that. What's appropriate at home if things appropriate at school. Well, the way I act around my buddies and my friends, I can't do that in a work setting. But these kiddos, they don't understand that. They think if I can do that with my buddies up on a strip job riding four-wheelers, that's what I'm going to do in the classroom. And we have to teach them, you know, there's a couple different standards, there's a couple different areas that you have to know what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. So quickly we'll go on to group dynamics. Group dynamics, when we're looking at group dynamics, if you look at these folks, picture a diamond. And look at your classroom and think about your classroom. Or just think about the social group that you run with. My social group is what I like to use. We have a leader. A leader in their social group is a very charismatic person. They kind of, like I said, they lead. They're usually real positive. They follow rules. They assist teachers. They like to assist staff members. They're respectful. They're the ones that, like I said, they lead. They kind of, that person in your classroom, if you're not there, that person in the classroom is going to take over and lead that class for you. So you usually have one leader in your class. A lieutenant is somebody that backs up that leader. I have to have a lieutenant with me all the time because I'm not a leader and I'm definitely not a lieutenant. But a lieutenant is someone that is behind the scenes really controlling everything. The leader says, we need to get so-and-so in line. You need to talk to them. The lieutenant will take that role on. Lieutenants are easily influenced. They follow the directions and the orders of the leader. They don't really think things out. They just act. And the reason that they do is they are affiliated with the leader who has all the power in the group. And the leaders are usually the ones that are high achieving students as well. So your lieutenants are looking for that affiliation. They're getting that power by being affiliated with the leader. And so it makes them look good for everyone else. Members, I love the members of your class. They're just happy to be there. They sit there, everything going swimmingly, they're doing fine. Everybody misbehaving, they're going to fall into that. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, they're going to fall into it. They're just happy to be there, happy to be part of it. Just tickled to death that they're even seen in that environment. That's the majority of the kids in your classroom. That's probably the 80%. Those are the ones that Tier 1 strategies for behavior work every time. So those are your members. The next students that you got to be aware of or social group are the status seekers. The status seekers are the ones that are going to cause you the most problems in your classroom because they don't know where they fit in this group dynamics. They're usually, you know, we've had kids move into our district halfway through the school year. So guess what role they fell into? They fell into the status seeker role because they didn't know where they fit. They didn't know where they belonged. They didn't know what they were supposed to do. But They was always attention seekers. They were always trying to get people to look at them. You know, they just wanted to make sure that, hey, I'm part of this group too. I don't know where I belong, but I'm here. And you're gonna pay me attention. And it didn't matter if they got attention from peers, or attention from the teacher, or attention from whoever. They were the ones that caused most trouble. Little fellows that we have to protect are our scapegoats. They're the ones that get blamed for everything. I had a couple of kids in class, shoot, they got blamed for things that happened 2 days and they weren't even there. I was like, you know, they didn't do it, they weren't here. Yeah, they did. So, scapegoats are the ones that you gotta protect. They're the ones that are usually closest to the teacher. And because they're scared to death to be in that classroom, to be in that group. And if you think about your classes and think about the kids that you worked with, you can see those scapegoats. And those are the ones that we do provide most protection to, because they stay closest to you. They try to tell you what's going on. They try to keep you informed because they're scared and they don't know where they belong. So scapegoats are the ones that you must protect. And they're the ones that we usually have to protect. So we got a kiddo who antagonizes others in the group, and they don't demonstrate effective judgment. They'll be the leader, lieutenant, member, status seeker, or scapegoat. They antagonize everybody else, they follow orders, and they don't have good or effective judgment. But we'll come back to this. All right? So, what about this kiddo named Jesse? They do what the rest of the groups do. They get along well with most of the peer group. Member, right? Doing everything that I'm supposed to. All right. This person is newer to the group. They're always looking around to see if peers and the staff are watching them. They engage in inappropriate behavior more than peers. Status seeker, right? This person antagonizes others in the group. They're easily led, don't show effective judgment. Lieutenant, very good, thank you. And then this person is smaller than most of the peers, stay closest to staff, give information about peers, complains of having no friends. Scapegoat. Yeah. And then so the last one must be high cognitive and social skills. Rarely have any conversations in front of staff that aren't positive in nature. And they're like our peers and still the leader, right? So just think about that dynamics. And this information came from JKM Training Incorporated, so I think thank y'all. Get that out. Alright, so when we talk about knowing ourselves, we all need to have those personal boundaries or set up those personal boundaries when we're dealing or interacting with our students. You know, and those personal boundaries are things that you're not going to let them too close to get to know what's going on with you. I'm going to get through this rather quickly because there's one more I want to talk about before we get it out. One of the things that we want to look at, so some factors that influence responses are the factors that influence your responses, how you respond to kids. What's one thing that if a student's doing something this morning that you let them by with 3 days ago, but this morning on the way to work, you had a flat tire and you're running an hour late, and you respond differently. Would that affect how you responded to the student's behavior? Yeah. If I've had a bad morning, guess who's going to have a bad morning? Everyone's going to have a bad morning. If I think that I got passed over for a job that I should have had, is that going to affect the way I respond to my students? Yes. So that's those things that, you know, if I'm struggling and arguing with my son over playing a video game and he won't let me win, is that going to affect the way I respond when we're playing video games in the classroom and they won't let me win there either? Right. So look at things, different things affect the way that you respond to those behaviors. And just think about what are some of those factors that may set you off one day that don't bother you other days. And that's why we were saying earlier, make sure you're consistent and consistently the same each day. Targets and triggers. Our kiddos are with us 6, 7, 8 hours a day. They sit there all day long trying to figure out what is that button that I'm going to push that finally sends you over the edge. And once they find that button, they're going to keep pushing that button until you go off or explode or lose control or whatever you want to call it. So the things they look at are the things that you hold true. your values, your beliefs, your home, your family, things like that. If they can find that bothers you, they're going to keep pushing that button until you lose control. And once you lose control, who has control? They do. Once you have brought that trust, it takes a lot to build that trust back with your kids. So they look at those things that you hold dear. They look at how you do your job. You're the worst teacher I've ever had. Or so-and-so's a lot better teacher than you. So-and-so let us do this in their class, why don't you laugh at, I always have a response to that, but that never bothered me. Because I was always, oh yeah, I'm bad, wait till you get this stuff. Next year, you'll think I was the greatest teacher ever. Right? So then they also look at your characteristics. And that's the one that hit me. I mean, when I first started, young, I ain't taking crap off nobody, especially a 17-year-old boy who'd stand up in my face, And so we had this party for this kid. He was 16, just turned 17. We had a little cake and stuff like that. Well, wasn't wearing trauma reminders, wasn't wearing anything like that. Well, his birthday, he was in a residential facility. Family didn't want him, the court system put him there. So, and it just reminded him of, he never had a birthday party. So we had cake and stuff like that for him. I thought it was something cool. And he just started, just real silly stuff, just banging his desk and noise making and things like that. And it's like, man, here you are, you just turned 17. It's a shame you're acting like a 4-year-old. He stood up and looked down on me and he said, it's a shame you're short. And golly, man, that was it. I said, give me a milk crate in here, somebody help. Yeah, I lost. And I had to apologize, which I knew I did, but then, it's like, man, that was my trigger. And so once I got that out, got over that, it all bothered me. So some things, we already talked about these. So nonverbal strategies that we can use with our kiddos, we talked earlier about what? Proximity, right, very good. The other thing is, I have to create signals with my guys for cues. Get it back in the road, reel it in, that's enough. So, carry these up. So. And then some eye contact as well. Make that eye contact, just move close, proximity, just high five, thumbs up, yeah, give them signals or whatever, just whatever, whatever makes you, and work those signals out with the kids before you develop them. So I had a young man that didn't like to raise his hand in front of the class because it made him feel dumb. So and when he started needing help, he just shut his book, throw it on the floor, and start doing silly stuff like that. And I'm like, man, what's going on? He said, well, I feel dumb if I have to raise my hand, and I don't want nobody to think that I'm dumb. I said, well, why don't we work out a signal? So we got to talking, and he's talking about watching some auctions or something. His papa went to the auction and stuff. He says, yeah, man, and they was betting on these cattle and stuff. And said, this guy's doing this and this and this. He said, there's all kinds of stuff going on. I said, I got it, man. If you need help, put your finger beside your nose. And I'll see that signal. You now know what that means, and I'll just kind of wander over and say, hey, man, great job. Yeah, let's get started right here. I'll help you on this one. That way I can provide you with a little bit of help, and nobody else has to know what it means. So that worked for a while, and then he changed it up on me, and I didn't know what was going on. So, I said, yeah, you change it up, he grabbed his ear, everything's fine. If he touched his nose, he needed help. Well, he grabbed his ear, and I said, it's all right, I don't need help now. So, make sure they share your signal and you share their signal. But those things work well. Verbal strategies, your tone, rate, and volume of the voice that you use. The tone of your voice, the rate, and the volume should match the environment. If we're in the gym, I'm not going to talk real loud and soft to my kiddos. Okay, boys and girls, it's time to go. How's that going to help? Everybody screaming and squalling and yelling. Yeah, that's it. So make sure your volume of your voice matches the environment you're in. Let me play this one video for you real quick. I know I'm running through this quick, but I just appreciate everyone for being here. Thank you. And if this works, great. If it don't, we're going to turn it on this video. All right, here we go. That's it.
Did you see that? Why would somebody do that?
Please go into the classroom, no talking, quietly.
Miss Mary, what are you doing?
We need you inside.
How do you think that makes us feel? I forgot my number.
What's your name?
Jordan, what's your last name? Carter. School is hard enough.
Come on in, sit down quietly at your desks, and begin writing.
This kind of stuff just makes it harder.
I said quietly, please. Who's talking? Is it you, Sophie? Don't let it be you.
Don't believe me? Please just watch.
I'm not up here for me, I'm up here for you. Pay attention. Okay? Now somebody answer me. Somebody needs to answer me really fast.
Every time we're ignored or yelled at or silenced, the teacher takes away what's possible.
No horseplay, no running, and especially no talking.
Moment by moment.
Secretary, your student's behavior yesterday in the lunchroom, it was terrible. Next time, silent lunch.
Did you hear that? Stay in line and catch a ball. I'm not playing.
If this is education, we're in trouble. Bye, Miss McGarrity. Frederick Douglass said, once you learn to read, you'll be forever free. The way it is now, 2 of the 3 of us will never be able to really read. It doesn't have to be this way.
Hey, Jordan, how you doing? Good.
Everyone we meet throughout our day can make a difference.
I've been waiting for you to arrive.
All the difference.
Good, how are you? Hi, Jordan. Hi, Jason.
Good morning, Jordan.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good.
Go ahead and put your number in.
Talk with us, not at us.
That's okay. I'll look it up for you. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay.
All right.
Teach us what we need to know. That's how we get smarter.
Well, good morning, Sophie, Jalecia, and Jordan.
And when you talk with us and teach us, give us bigger and bigger words.
Now what I'd like you to do, children, is turn around and converse with your neighbor and discuss where the mother might have gone.
Words that we can use to read and understand. She's praying for evil, so she comes at night. And that will take us places we could never reach without you.
Remember, we're entering the learning zone. Now, how can we show our respect to the children and teachers who are working?
We can walk quietly.
Yes. Okay, kids, so what I'd like you to do is continue writing your narrative, documenting your emotions. If you were the baby owl and your mother abandoned you in the nest.
What can you do? Learn all that you can, so that you can challenge us to be our best.
We would have stayed and assisted them in whatever they needed.
Share yourself with us, and show us how to share ourselves with others. Give us courage. Give us compassion. Help us find our own voices, so we can become who we are meant to be. Why would you want to silence us?
Alright. So, take away from the video. Any takeaways? Anything you want to mention? One thing that I like that I saw was no matter what happened, the little fellow tried to stay positive. Right? Good morning to the bus driver. Get your butt back there and sit down. Don't bother me. Go to the lunchroom, the cafeteria lady. What do you mean you don't know your number? Oh, what you want? She acted disgusted. I'm thinking, I'm a teacher. Even though, when he said bye, and he was real upbeat throughout the whole thing. And so it wasn't the student that was having the difficulty. That was the adults and the staff members. And a lot of times we do get caught up in our own selves and our own world of problems and aggravations and difficulties. And we inadvertently take that out on our little fellows we work with, and they pick up on this stuff. So, like I said, try to be consistent. Take every opportunity that you have to build a relationship with those kids. I heard Dr. Sloan, or Mr. Sloan talking about this morning, some kids that come up to you later and talk to you and tell you that you taught them a lot during reading and stuff like that. Well, the kids I worked with, I never expected to see And, you know, and I'm not bragging on anything I did, but I had a kid, once I left the facility, I went to the regular school, the high school, and I had a kid who come up, there was a couple of kids that were working for a teleworks up here. But they saw me one day in the hallway and they yelled at me and hollered at me. And I said, oh wow, man, that was really cool. And it was cool to see them as adults and the interaction we had then as adults compared to the interaction we had as teacher and student. So, you know, just do the best that you can, and like I said, enjoy every day that you have working in your schools and in your classrooms. And thank you all so much for being here today. And like I said, my name's Doug Smith. It's email is doug.smith@hazard.kylights3.us or doug.smith@holler.org. Shoot me an email if you need anything, and we'll try to get back to you. But thank you all very much, and be awesome. Be safe, be kind, be exceptional. Thank you.